Okay, this video is quotes from my book, Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by P. Rogers. We're going to do James Doty, Dryden, and we're going to do Drucker. So Doty, just one quick one. He's a neurosurgeon. He said, just because something is broken, that doesn't mean everything is broken. So what that's about is just keep your cool. A lot of times there's going to be problems. Things are screwed up all the time. But you just make the most of the situation that you can. Just because there's a problem doesn't mean everything is ruined. Okay, John Dryden. They can conquer who believe they can. Yeah, the growth mindset. If you believe you can improve your academic performance or your performance in other areas, then you're going to put the effort in to try to do it, and you probably will. Okay, first our habits. First we make our habits, then our habits make us. Yeah, so you've got to go through your entire day, every 30-minute interval, and make sure you're getting the most out of your time. And you should be doing things like reading when you're in the bathroom, listening to an audiobook when you're in the car. Okay, and then here's one of my favorite lines from Dryden. He's an English poet, lived 1631 to 1700. He said, I am wounded, but not slain. I will lie a while and bleed a little, and then rise to fight again. And that's an important one, the concept of resilience. Because in the real world, there's all kinds of nasty people, passive-aggressive people, sneaky, conniving people that mess with you, shadow you-know-what, ban you, censor you. And you have to be able to bounce back from all these setbacks, because if you're not able to bounce back from setbacks, then you're never going to be successful, because you're always going to have setbacks. That's just a fact of life. So you have to learn how to bounce out of them. Okay, redouble your efforts and come back even stronger. Okay, next one for John Dryden. By education, most have been misled. Yeah, most people, their education consists of teaching them things that are not true. So you have to learn to get beyond that if you want to be a well-educated, smart person. Public schools train you to be a chump, a minimum wage chump. They don't train you to think well and to be perceptive and know the truth about things. Okay, Dryden's next quote. He who would search for pearls must dive below. Yeah, if you're thinking what everybody else is thinking and your knowledge is the same of everyone else around you, then you probably don't know much. If you are well informed on a subject, you should routinely be thinking, gosh, I wish there was someone around who could talk to me. No one else knows anything about this. Okay, repartee is the soul of conversation. Yeah, a clever, funny person, they can sort of snap back with their own good answer. Okay, next, Peter Drucker, the efficiency expert. He lived from 1909 to 2005. First quote is, people learn the most when teaching others. Yeah, that's why if you want to master a subject, it's good to make videos about it, make a YouTube channel about it. Write a book about it. Teach a class about it. Peter Drucker. The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. That's a good one. Because people lie and bullshit all the time. And there was someone else who said something. I think it was Beaumarchais, or maybe it was Molière. Molière, the French playwright. He says, everyone makes the same promises. The difference is in who keeps them. So anyways, Peter Drucker says, the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. And that's very much like the Thomas Carlyle quote where he said, there's always a good reason, and then there's the real reason. So yeah, people will tell you, oh, the reason for this is something noble and good and to help you. But in reality, it's going to be some sneaky, conniving bullshit so they get more money or power. Okay, Peter Drucker. The purpose of information is not knowledge. It is being able to take the right action. Yes, the most valuable knowledge is that which guides you to do the right thing. Peter Drucker. There's only one valid definition of business, to create a customer. Yep, that's another good one. A lot of times engineers and scholars, they focus on making a good product, but in reality, whether or not a company succeeds is if they got a good salesperson. The product don't really matter that much. McDonald's has a lousy hamburger, but they're good at selling it. Okay, Peter Drucker. The most common source of mistakes in management decisions is the emphasis on finding the right answer rather than the right question. Yeah, because you have to ask yourself, what are they really trying to do? Like, I've seen tons and tons of people try to write about, medical reform, healthcare reform, how to improve hospitals, and I don't even look at their papers because I've seen so many of them. I know that they always stink and they're always wrong. You cannot make sense out of a hospital, out of a medical system, unless you think like Robert Conquest, the historian. And here's what he said. He said, whenever trying to understand any institution, you should always make the assumption that the leadership is a cabal against the interests of the institution. Because unless you do that, you probably won't figure it out. And, Robert Steele, he wrote a good book about, office smarts. And what he said was, the higher you go up in any organization, they don't care about the organization. They care about their own status and power. So they're always going to make moves based on that. And they're always going to have somebody controlling them. The big fish eats the little fish. And unless you sort of think of it that way, nothing will ever make sense, and you're just wasting your time. Okay, Peter Drucker continues. As a rule, we perceive what we expect to perceive. The unexpected is usually not received at all. It is not seen or heard, but ignored, or it is misunderstood. Yep. Time is the scarcest resource, and unless time is managed, nothing else can be managed. Peter Drucker continues, the only skill that will be important in the 21st century is the skill of learning new skills. Yeah, you got to constantly learn new stuff and bounce out of mistakes and keep on improving. I've noticed that a lot of people, they don't want to change their opinions, and they get very offended if you try to tell them otherwise. And those people tend to be locked in, and they tend to have poor outcomes in health, from what I've seen. Next quote, Peter Drucker, the university will not survive. The future is outside of traditional campus, outside the traditional classroom. Distance learning is coming on fast. Yeah, if you have a meritocracy in education, most college professors stink. I know it because I tutored a lot of college students, and they hate their professors. They say, my professor's a piece of crap. That's what they say all the time, because the professors are not really helping them. The professors are just wasting their time and then testing them. So that's why I'm saying a good professor can make so much more progress than a bad one. But the universities don't care because there's no competition. They still have guaranteed tuition paid. That's all they care about. So until it becomes difficult to fill your classroom seats and get all your tuition, the quality of teaching will not improve. But once competition becomes for real, then they're going to want the best professors. When I retire someday, I'll maybe go into teaching. Okay, Peter Drucker, what's measured improves. Knowledge has to be improved, challenged, and increased constantly, or it vanishes. Yeah, that's a good point. You either keep improving at the field you want to be an expert in, otherwise you start going downhill. And I see that in doctors. If doctors don't keep learning, they turn into Gomer doctors. A Gomer doctor means get out of my emergency room, and it's just a slang way of meaning that a doctor knows how to get by and generate billing codes, but they're quite mediocre. Okay, Peter Drucker, organization is a means of multiplying the strength of an individual. Okay, that's it for today. I hope that was helpful.